You are listening to Swamp Things, a podcast about University of Florida sports with the Orlando Sentinel's Edgar Thompson and the AP's Mark Long. Edgar and Mark discuss the goings-on with the Gators in Gainesville, where each is a longtime resident who has seen championship success, coaching turmoil, and plenty of drama on and off the field.
Greetings and welcome to Swamp Things, a podcast about the Florida Gators. It's December 16th, 2025. I'm Edgar Thompson of the Orlando Sentinel, joined by Mark Long of the Associated Press and my yard guy, if you can hear him in the background. Sorry about the noise, but it should be over soon. A lot of leaves out there, Mark, to be tended to.
I'm sure. This time of year, they're falling.
They just fall everywhere. I tell you, dropping like flies are Florida Gators. They're hitting the portal fast and furiously, Mark. So we're hearing DJ Lagway, or Mark was hearing a little bit more than I. I was still kind of thinking, he's going to give it a shot, prove himself, determined kid, talented kid. Mark's hearing it's trending away from DJ. I'm thinking, waking up Monday, got a Zoom call with the LPGA commissioner ahead of the Tournament of Champions event in late January in Orlando I cover every year, and chatting away with him about the LPGA's future. And then suddenly text message, DJ Lagway's leaving. And I'm like, oh my God. So I'm like, here we go. I tell you, Monday was a crazy day. We'll discuss why it all came down as it did so quickly, but not really. I'm surprised and not surprised. I feel like DJ certainly was salvageable. A lot of work to be done, whether it was getting his body right and his fundamentals straight. But was it going to be worth the effort, Mark, or the price tag? I mean, John Sumrall is donating $100K to the NIL program at Tulane, which is noble and impressive. That'd cover like one game for DJ Lagway in 2025. And for it, you got 16 touchdown passes, 14 interceptions that led the SEC. And really, I mean, how many good performances? I mean, Texas, not really many notable, like full game performances, maybe a quarter here and there. And then some god-awful ones, whether it's the 5 interception performance at LSU, 61 yards at Miami, 3 picks at Kentucky. It was a lot it was a guy, the $6 million man. Did they have the technology to rebuild him, Mark?
Yeah, I think there's a combination of things. I think first and foremost, the price tag, right? He was going to be due more than $3 million. And when you're talking about budgets and a new coach and maybe resetting the baseline and setting some standards. And I mean, you don't want to have to pay a guy who hasn't performed that kind of money. So the money was absolutely a factor. And then I think that there was a belief, talking to people in the program with the new staff, talking to people, some carryovers, that, DJ wasn't a great leader last season, and he's not been a great worker. And maybe he wants to be good, and maybe he wants to be great. That's what I hear. He wants to be a really good quarterback. But there's a difference between wanting it and putting in the work to get there. So I do believe that there was a thought that at $3.5 million or more, that was this guy, it's hard to have him as a backup at that price tag, right? He's got to be your penciled-in starter from day one, new coaching staff, new offense, everything. Do you really want to pencil this guy in if he's not a great leader? Some of the intangible things, not a great worker, not a great example, but certainly talented, and we've seen enough flashes to think that he's got the potential to be great. But certainly you look at last year and you go, yeah, not at $3.5 million.
Yeah, the leader part's interesting, because you remember when I was talking about the video at the Gasparilla Ball, right? Where he was at the tunnel and literally low-fiving every guy, whether it was an analyst. I mean, with Billy, it's like the clown car. I mean, they just kept coming, right? But yeah. He was, low five in every guy, and it looked like he was just really like such a energized guy. I think the injuries took their toll on his confidence and just his attitude. They beat you down, man. When you get injured, right? Whether it's someone like us, whether you're back or in the gym or whatever. I mean, right? It's demoralizing. And you're talking about a world-class athlete here who is a Heisman, contender coming into the season, or a potential contender, all SEC third team, 12 40-yard completions last year, which might have led the nation. 2 games where he had 5 of them. No one even did that once. Second to Jackson Dart and rating and yards per attempt. Dart's in the NFL now, first round draft pick. So he had high hopes, and I think he was demoralized, and it bled into his maybe just the way he carried himself. You don't want, Eeyore on your football team, man. So, and then the performance was just, it was rough, man, to watch. I felt badly. The kid came in after every game and owned it, and, vowed he'd do better. But at some point you got to, walk the walk, man.
Yeah. 240 pounds as well,
247.
247, heavier than Tebow. We saw some flashes of him ability to move, but I don't know if he's the real dual threat quarterback that Buster Faulkner wants. He's no Haynes King, right? In terms of his running ability. And maybe he'll get his arm straight and throw the ball like he did last season. But he certainly, if you're rebuilding the offense, I don't know that he's a good starting point to rebuild the offense. Big thing is you mentioned it, the injuries. It's like, how much confidence can you have if you pencil this guy in as your starter that he's going to be there for you on week 1, let alone week 10? Mm-hmm. So that's probably more than anything at the price point. It's too much of a risk, right? It's all of roster management is risk versus reward. What are you paying these guys? How do you balance it? And it was just a big risk to pay him that much money as a pencil-in starter. And it probably affects your ability to bring somebody else in. I understand they want to bring somebody else in. They're all in now at this point on Tramel Jones, but they want to bring in competition. They want to have 2 guys in there. I don't know. I don't know this for a fact, but my guess is DJ wasn't keen on competition and potentially a pay cut.
No. The one guy you can build the offense around is Jaden Ball. And we know that he's the big fish that they want to land. Miles Graham's already in the fold from what I hear. You're hearing some guys that they're negotiating with. But it's not a long list, and we'll get to that in a minute, because they're not a long list of must-haves. But to, close the loop on DJ here for a bit, you saw 3 schools named Pete Nakos on 3. Baylor, okay, his dad's alma mater, Big 12 school. Yeah, enjoy Waco. And that's close to home and all that. And that'd probably be a nice, comfortable fit for him in a program where he could, rebuild his game and reputation. Miami was on the list. A little close to home. Don't have to play them again. I mean, the Hurricanes just walloped Florida twice, so it's probably a good thing out of the last 2 years. And then the third was LSU. Now, you're expecting Lane Kiffin to probably lure Trinidad Chambliss to Baton Rouge if he can get another year of eligibility, or maybe bring Austin Simmons, the former UF commit, the lefty down there. What if DJ Lagway in it with Lane Kiffin? That probably wouldn't be the ideal scenario for a Gator fan.
No, that's actually the worst case scenario, because that's what for months everybody thought was going to happen in Gainesville. Lane Kiffin and DJ Lagway paired together to carry the Gators back to national prominence, right? That was the running team. That was the tandem. That was Batman and Robin. So, that would be awful. Miami wouldn't be great. Baylor's the best case scenario for any Florida fan. You don't want to see him land at a rival. Go to Baylor. You don't have to worry about playing him unless it's in a bowl game, pretty meaningless bowl games these days, or in the playoff. But yeah, good luck to DJ. Listen, good kid, was probably, you know, it's tough to never meet expectations, right? And when you reset, the expectations were high when he stepped foot on campus. Then he took them even higher when he played. So it was really unreachable expectations for that kid heading into his sophomore season. He needed a reboot as much as Florida did.
How much of this do you lay on Billy Napier and Ryan O'Hara? I was talking to someone today, a couple people, in fact, and I don't want to, you know, I can tend to be hyperbolic if you haven't picked up on that, listeners, and Mark certainly knows. But Billy Napier, man, I mean, you could make a strong case that he's one of the worst football coaches in the SEC in the last whatever decades. I mean, truly, when you look at that record and what he did here, I mean, there was a win here and there, Ole Miss, LSU back-to-back last year, obviously Tennessee in the swamp, but you follow it up with that loss at Kentucky, Utah to open his career. I might be forgetting one or two. I mean, I'm surprised because there's so few. You probably should remember all of them, but you can remember all the bad losses, and we don't need to, like, you know, go through all of them again. But I mean, the one, you know, the opener at Utah in 2023 is just brutal. I mean, you got all this build up, and he's talking, you know, trash almost, right? And just what a no-show. And then this year was just awful with USF loss and all this stuff. So, and there are more. But how much of this do you lay on the coaches and just not using him properly, you know, putting a thumb on him, demanding, expecting? I don't know. I mean, I don't want to, you know, just keep trashing Billy on the way up to Harrisonburg, you know, to JMU. But some of this has to fall on him and Ryan O'Hara.
Yeah, it's funny. Billy come across as a real accountability guy. I'm not sure how much accountability he had with the team. And again, I'm not trying to, I like Billy. I thought Billy is a good man and tried hard and did his best. I just think he had some clear flaws. This was one of them. But I put it more on the injury issue. I actually put it on the staff, because this kid going into his freshman year, DJ Lagway, had shoulder soreness, right? They shut him down during camp for a couple of weeks or a week. Well, how's that not followed up on? How is he not on December 20th, when their season ends with the bowl game, December 18th, whatever it was, how's he not having shoulder surgery? How's he not getting it checked out? So then you go into 2025, you get to January of 2025, March 2025, and he's like, oh, I still got some soreness in there. And they're like, whoa, what? And turns out that, yeah, they look at it and they're like, okay, he needs surgery. But if we have surgery now, he misses the season. That's not necessarily on DJ. Some of it is, for sure, because as an athlete, you need to know your body and report any kind of issues with your body to the training staff. But it's also when the coaches and the staff are not following up. Like, that guy, when he's your prize quarterback and he has a shoulder injury, his throwing shoulder, it needs to be checked on every single week, every single month of his freshman season. So there's a lot of it, but I put it more on the injuries. This guy just got so injured and then didn't practice, gets thrown in the fire. Protection wasn't very good. Some of that was on him, no doubt, but you could see he had a lack of confidence in the pocket. He was dancing, happy feet, running out of the pocket way too soon, scrambling left to right. That makes it really hard on your offensive line. Bad throws all the time. Yeah, so it's a combination. I would not put a lot of it on the coaching staff. I just think that they were in a tough spot. Here you go. You think you've got this superstar quarterback, and what you got to do is get him to week one healthy. He couldn't get to week one healthy, and every time they thought he was getting healthy, it was something else crept in. So a little bit of that is bad luck, you know, buzzard's luck, as Will Muschamp used to call it. But, you know, I do think there's some blame to go around for everybody involved.
Yeah, including probably his family and handlers who, as we know in this day and age, a lot of those decisions are being made outside the building. Is the young man going to have surgery? As I pointed out to Mark, and maybe even on here, since he didn't have the surgery, DJ signed deals with EA Sports, Coverboy. Think about that. Beats, Chipotle doing a commercial with Walter Clayton, has a Lamborghini and Mercedes due to deals with them, and I'm forgetting deals. He leaves here with millions of dollars and a bright future, at least financially, if not on the field. But so if he'd had surgery, you're not going to put a guy in a sling on the cover of EA Sports.
Right.
So
a guy who might miss the entire season.
Yeah, and you want to manage it and see if he can get through it. I'm not saying that they were like, just suck it up. We need to make these deals, right? We got deals on the table to make, but you do kind of manage it and hope for the best. Now, it does sound, I think you have gleaned that he isn't going to need shoulder surgery. It doesn't sound like now.
Yeah, it sounds like they've gotten through he got through the season. They checked it, kept on it, checked it out, and it looks like it's healing properly enough to where he can avoid shoulder surgery, which is big for him moving on to his next school, that he can go in and maybe actually work and have an off season, have spring football, have summer workouts, and do the things he needs to do to be ready for a season. And again, worst case scenario for Gator Nation is this guy goes and becomes a superstar elsewhere and is the number 1 pick in the 2027 NFL draft.
Oh my Lord. Well, that would be a nightmare. But yeah, because you don't want people start cutting on your body at age 20 and, throwing off symmetry and creating potential scar tissue. And, that surgery didn't work great. We need to do another one. I mean, how many times does that happen in the NFL where a guy gets a surgery and needs another one down the road pretty quickly because it didn't work? So yeah, you mentioned what I was thinking actually is because there's no spring portal, he couldn't go through the spring and see how it all played out, because as you mentioned, Tramel Jones, he's going to be probably in the early running to be the starter, right? But they're bringing in guys. Georgia Tech's Aaron Philo seems to be a guy potentially heading to Gainesville. Darian Mensah, the Duke quarterback, seemed to make some sense because he played at Tulane with Sumrall 2 years ago, transferred before that bowl game where we got I think Ty Thompson experience, which was not fun. That kid did not, should have been playing tight end like Felipe Franks. And then you have Will Griffin, the 4-star recruit, record setter out of Tampa Jesuit, who probably won't be quite ready as a freshman, but who knows? 6'3", 220, bunch of 12,000 and some yards, 143 touchdowns, both second in state history, and something to work with there. So there's gonna be a quarterback room and plenty of competition. But DJ, if he'd thrown himself into that and realized it's not working out, there's no spring portal. Now there's one portal. It's January 2nd to the 16th. Well, this was determined in October. The original portal mark was supposed to open today, which might explain, I think, Graham Hall at 247 Sports and I were chatting yesterday, and he mentioned that could be part of the reason for the exodus yesterday of 6 to 8 players, because contracts ran out. But then you have a counter theory here.
Well, I don't understand how the contracts would be running out on December 15th, even if that was the case, because again, you're planning to be in a bowl game. You're planning to be in the college football playoff. So why would you want these contracts expiring in the middle of potentially a first round playoff game, right? The week of a playoff game. So it doesn't make any sense.
Well, much less, like you said, the Tax Slayer Bowl. Who'd play in it?
Yeah, nobody's going to play in it if they don't have a contract. Meaningless bowl. So I was told it was a lot of it. These guys who bailed were just, they saw DJ jump and they also jumped because of DJ, and because he was, they all knew they were going to go in the portal and had planned to go in the portal. But once DJ pulled the trigger, they all said, hey, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm pulling the trigger. I know I'm going. I'm going to go ahead and announce it, release it, get out of this thing, and make it known that I'm going to be available come January. Was it January 2nd?
the Pied Piper effect in reverse they were hoping for DJ. Not that I think they're crying a river here on the guys that they lost, because I mean, you know, Muiz, Tancora, the receiver. I mean, he was just going to be in a log jam there. When you got Vernell Brown, you have Dallas Wilson, presumably Aiden Mizell, guys coming in. You got Nashawn Montgomery, the freshman, with really speedy kid who could, you know, who flashed maybe in one game last year. There's a lot of guys in front of him. You lost Tavorius Brown, Tavares, Brown, nose tackle. But you got those up-and-comers that Mark, I think, honestly, was probably the first on the beat to really identify Mbachu back in spring, just going, man, this guy's got something. McLeod, you know, during the season popped for you really early. And then, of course, you have Burrow, who we'll see what his future is. Jordan Castell doesn't surprise me at all, even though he's a 3-year starter. Just not instinctive, not physical, always just a little slow to like decide, right? You need a safety who's decisive and arrives with physicality. He didn't often enough, if at all. Katie Daniels, the tailback, promising kid, just never really got in the mix. And now he's looking at Jaden Baugh rushing for 266 and Duke Clark flashing pretty impressively. And then other kids behind them too. I mean, Jacoby Jackson, I guess, could come back. I mean, he could get a medical red shirt. Amir Jackson, the tight end, who I thought was going to be an X factor breakout player because of his athletic ability, just never really got going at a position where there was opportunity. I mean, tight end has never really had a playmaker there with Hayden Hansen and Tony Livingston, though I think Hayden Hansen gives you something. He's pretty soft, man, yards after catch for a 6'7", 270-pound guy. And there are more to come. But what do you make any of those guys? And, I mean, is there any losses there? And some names to throw out, Mark: Tank Hawkins, Pup Howard, the linebacker. I mean, Tank opted out against Kentucky. I can't imagine he thinks he's coming back. Kermani McLean is a guy we're hearing. Trey Wilson, what's his future? It's been injury-riddled history here. Does he want a fresh slate? There are others.
Childs, McCray are big ones to watch. I think let's focus on the targets, right? I'll go through the targets of who they would really like to keep.
Okay.
And not necessarily in this order.
Please do. Let's shift to positivity.
Let's start with Jaden Baugh, right? We know Jaden Baugh, as you mentioned him. Jaden Baugh, 266 in his last game. He is, if not priority 1A, right? Tramel Jones, quarterback, is certainly high on the list. He's going to be the penciled-in starter. But Baugh has been fantastic all year. 1,000-yard rusher, first one in a decade, right? Vernell Brown, you mentioned him. Miles Graham, 2 legacy guys. Got to have them back. They think they're going to come back. Those guys have both expressed an interest in coming back. Jaden Woods flashed near the end of the season. He flashed in the spring. We got to watch him in camp. They need Jaden Woods back. Cam James, I thought he was a lock to try to come back. I'm also hearing that take it or leave it with Cam James. If he wants to be here, fine. If not, they'll move on. Dallas Wilson, for sure, big-time talent. Javari Flowers, cornerback, who flashed a little bit, got on the field because of injuries and flashed. They'd like to have him back, but, you know, he's probably going to go look for a big-time payday, which is a lot of these guys, right? Caden Jones on the offensive line, big right tackle, played pretty well down the stretch, a guy you can build around. Other offensive linemen that you wouldn't know because these guys barely got on the field, but Jason Zandamela, the center, who was a backup, but never played because of Slaughter was so good. Jahari Medlock, a guard. Najee Harris, starting left guard, right? Played a lot of left guard. So you look at that, you could have Caden Jones at right tackle, returner. Najee Harris at left guard, returner. Jason Zandamela at center, returner. Jahari Medlock apparently is the young up-and-coming guy at guard. And then you're just going to look for a left tackle, maybe in the transfer portal. That's got to be one of their big-time needs and desires going into the transfer portal. So those guys, and then all those young defensive tackles. We talked about Bet M'Bachu, McLeod, Burrow, all those guys, absolutely they want to get back. It was one of the reasons they kept Gerald Chapman, was to have that enticing, leader, positional guy. Relationship, to have that relationship you already build. Now, again, Burrow, sounds like Burrow might be the hardest sell on those guys. I think you alluded to it earlier. I think M'Bachu might be in the fold this week, they're at least working on a deal with M'Bachu to keep him. Burrow's going to be the one. He's, transfer guy who might have a number in his head, a belief in his head of here's what I should be getting paid. And, I don't know if Florida's willing to make it. Again, got a lot of money to spend. I mean, what's the number? What did we figure out the number is? 25 total, or 25 in NIL plus 15.8 in rev share.
Is that what Florida's spending? Because that's what LSU was claiming it was going to spend. It seems pretty high. But it's going to be 15 and 15. I mean, Lane, I think, was like, I need 28 to 30 to build the roster I want. I don't think John Sumrall is coming here for promises that are much below that, especially given that he talks to Lane Kiffin a lot. He was even yesterday, he did an interview. I saw the transcript, and he was even talking about Lane yesterday. He likes Lane. He thinks highly of Lane, and I don't think he and Lane weren't talking about like what they were thinking along the way.
Yeah, no doubt. So again, let's just say if it's 30 million, 15.8 rather than and another 15 in NIL, 30 million, it's hard to take and pay DJ Lagway 3.5, 10% of your cap of basically your number. That's pretty hard sell when you're talking about a roster of 85 guys and you need, at least 50 good ones.
Can we go back in time and become college football players, Mark?
Yeah, right. I just want to be a kicker.
I like it.
And then the two things on the quarterback. And then the two things on the quarterbacks. I mean, you've identified two great targets. I think Aaron Philo from Georgia Tech, obviously the Buster Faulkner connection. There's a lot of people, but now Georgia Tech's losing Haynes King, and Georgia Tech's apparently trying to do everything in its power to keep Aaron Philo, who's a Georgia native. He broke Trevor Lawrence's state records. Every state record Trevor Lawrence held, Aaron Philo broke it. So Georgia Tech, wants this guy and is willing to break the bank to keep him. So I'm hearing 50-50 at best with him coming to Florida. The other one you mentioned, Darian Mensah, I think you've got his numbers: 30 touchdown passes, 5 interceptions last year at Duke. And it was 22 and 6 the year before at Tulane, 66% completion percentage. So fantastic quarterback from a game management standpoint, can also run a little bit. But he's going to be, by all accounts, the highest paid, I don't know, but maybe DJ, but he's going to be one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the transfer portal. And is Florida in year one under John Sumrall? You can't have these wide eyes and think you're going to fix it like that. As poorly coached as the team may have been, it's just not realistic, right? To think you're going to flip it like that at Florida, where you're not spending like Texas Tech did. You're not spending like BYU or TCU a couple years ago. It's not going to – they don't want to do that. They want to build this thing the right way, have a little sustainability. We see what happened to TCU the following year, right?
I think it was SMU.
TCU, wasn't it TCU? Didn't TCU make the title game? I think they made the playoff.
And then went like crazy last year too. They're all going crazy. We can't keep up, especially in Texas, where you stick a Derrick in the ground, man, and you got your NIL paid for.
So my point being, if Darian Mensah is going to be a $3 million guy, and you're Florida and you think this is a 2-year build as opposed to a 1-year build, do you really want to go all in on Darian Mensah when you might have the answer right here with Tramel Jones? So I just don't know that philosophically it's what Florida's going to do. Now, they could end up there. I mean, this guy's got a relationship with John Sumrall. If he wants to come play for John at a reasonable price, I think Florida would be all in it. But if he's going to be the highest paid quarterback in the portal, I'm not sure Florida's ready to go that route.
There's no reasonableness to this entire process. It's lunacy. And John Sumrall is going to be the first coach here who's really arriving when the confluence of NIL and the transfer portal are really at the peak. Billy got here in December of 2021, and NIL was just getting going. It had just been approved July 1st of that year, right? So he was rebuilding a roster and making moves when that was, and Florida's NIL program, and we've discussed it ad nauseum, wasn't really ahead of the, was behind the chain, so to speak, like Billy's offense was for about 4 years. So the point being is he could really, this roster is going to be unrecognizable by spring. They're going to be 18, 20 guys coming in as high schoolers. They could flip 30 guys, 25. It could be, the amount of movement could be legion. It's going to be crazy. So I'm not prepared for it. I am. You do what you got to do, but it's like, it's this craziness, man. And you're pre-writing guys, and you're trying to anticipate because you got to post this stuff, man, and move on. You can't just sit here and just sip coffee and kind of watch the internet and see what happens. So Sumrall, has kept us on our toes pretty quickly too with his staff hiring, right? He gets 2 coordinators while he's still coaching, his first week in Gainesville. By the time he left Thursday, he's already got his 2 coordinators. Last Friday, Phill Trautwein, who was clearly in the fold by then, former Gator left tackle, 2006 and 08. I remember when Phill signed out of New Jersey, it was kind of like, oh, interesting. You got a guy out of New Jersey. That was kind of new, right? Urban was going up there. Good football state, high school football state, probably in the tail end of the top 10. New Jersey produces a lot of good players. He was at Penn State the last 6 years, produced 7 draft picks with the Nittany Lions, some high drafted ones. He had a first-round pick at BC during his first 2 years there, guard Chris Lindstrom. So he's got some credentials. First off, Mark, though, what do you remember about Phill Trautwein, the player? Because I know he wore number 75. I don't have a lot of recollection, but if you were holding the left side down for a national title team for 2 years, you were a player.
Yeah, that's what I remember him being a really good quote, right? Being very available, being a great guy, nice guy, and then played well. He wasn't this wasn't Bryant McKinney over there, the Great Wall of McKinney. But this was a guy who played well enough to get it done, right? And it was a very talented SEC with the defensive line, I think, is always the difference between the SEC and every other conference. So this guy was facing monster after monster every single week and getting it done, holding his own, was in the fight. And so you like that about him, first and foremost. The guy's got a little bit of an edge to him, even though it doesn't come across like some offensive linemen we've dealt with. A little comparable, not from a player standpoint, but Austin Barber, right? Nice guy, plays with a little bit of an edge, but just the nicest guy you could meet off the field. Good dude, does things the right way. Phill Trautwein's very similar, certainly not as tall as Austin Barber, but it was a little bit bigger. I think he probably played it. He had to have played at 330, 325, 330. It doesn't look it in that photo, man. He looks like he's lost.
He looks good.
100 pounds right there. But guy clearly knows technique, knows what he's doing, and his track record shows that he's making a difference and getting guys to a high level and getting them in the NFL.
I'm loving me some Wesley Alden right now. I dumped some photo ideas on her before the pod, and she's like, look, man, I can't size all those. Well, she got a Phill Trautwein photo. Nice job. We do not need Wesley hitting the transfer portal. No NIL deals for Wesley, please, listeners. Yeah, you got to fix the O-line, man. And you got to win some recruiting battles. I'll tell you a guy you didn't mention, and nor did I, is Fletcher Westphal. Where's he fit in? I was thinking he was the future at left tackle. 6'8". He was a top 150 recruit, number 10 rated offensive lineman. He just can't seem to put on weight and stay healthy. He's broken his hands. He's had myriad injuries himself. And that's just a big part of this game, man. It's a tough game, and you have to stay on the field. If you're in the training room, man, you're of no use.
Yeah, and I don't know Fletcher Rothwell. I was not told that he's in the mix. Some of these young guys. I asked about who are the young guys, and I mentioned them before. He was not in the mix. But what I will say is, I've said this, and I'll say it again and repeat it. If you fix Florida's lines of scrimmage, and even the defensive line, because I don't think they were good enough up front last year on the defensive line. They haven't been good enough in the Billy Napier era. I think they finished double digits in sacks, 10th, 12th, 9th. I mean, they're just not good. 9th in sacks this year, 10th and 12th in Billy's first 2 years. It's not good enough up front in terms of getting pressure on opposing quarterbacks. And they haven't been good enough on the offensive line. This year we thought, okay, all these guys are coming back. They're going to be really good up front. Just because they're a year older doesn't make them a year better. Famous Billy Donovan quote. And that's what we saw. This team, just because they were a year older across the board up front, doesn't make them a year better. So if you can fix Florida on the lines, they're talented enough on the back end in the secondary, talented enough at receiver and running back. They'll find a quarterback. If you can fix them on the offensive line, you fixed Florida. And maybe that'll be Phill Trautwein.
And you mentioned sacks, but the middle of the defensive line is about, keeping your linebackers clean, like Miles Graham. Aaron Childs, it's interesting you bring him up. I would think he's a guy they want to keep. I mean, he can cover. He's an athlete, man. And if they're going to play some semblance of a 3-4, I think he could thrive personally. But we'll see. Jaden Robinson's an interesting one because he's productive, but I hear he really wants to play even more snaps. So that might not be in the cards for him. And that'd be a loss. I think he's a pretty productive player. But, coaching the linebackers, it'll be interesting. I'm thinking Bam Hardman, the former Gator linebacker, could be coming from Tulane and take that over. Brad White has linebacker experience on the outside. Bam was, I remember that was my first year on the beat. And I'm weird with numbers, but I just remembered he made 168 tackles that year, which is significant. 5th all time for school history, single season, maybe 4th. But he could be coming from Tulane and take over that group. But guys who are coming, Mark, Auburn receivers coach Marcus Davis, who played at Auburn this past year, past 2 years, Cam Coleman, the 5-star prospect, who can make some of the sickest catches in college football, but played in one of the worst offenses with the worst quarterback. Only guy with a worse passer rating than DJ Lagway in the SEC a year after he was second, DJ, by the way, is Jackson Arnold, the Auburn quarterback. So Cam Coleman didn't have a whole lot of help there. And Eric Singleford, is that his name? Singleton. What am I coming up with that for? Singleton. I've never even heard the name Singleton. Just made one up. Anyway, yeah, so he coached those guys. He was at Georgia Southern, I think in 2023 when that offense was 4th in the nation in passing yards. So he knows the passing game. Chris Collins, Kentucky defensive backs coach, was with Brad White 5 seasons. Coach Maxwell Harrison, who was the first Kentucky DB to go in the first round ever, cornerback, 2-time second-team All-SEC guy, and among others, a couple other good ones this year. They had 12 interceptions, including 3 off DJ, which was tied for second in the league. He's probably going to coach safeties because the cornerbacks coach is going to be UCF's Brandon Harris, who was approached and pursued by FSU and might even have been in Tallahassee, 35-year-old, who had them 25th in the nation in pass D in his 1 year there with the Knights, right? And now he's coming to Gainesville, and I didn't even make the connection. I was writing it up, and Ice Harris was his dad. And I'm like, Ice Harris, I know that name. He's Trayon Harris's older brother, the former quarterback. So you have those 3 guys joining the staff too, to go along with Gerald Chapman and Buster Faulkner, Brad White, Trautwein. So it's a pretty good crew, it looks like. Coordinators in particular I like, but Chapman, Trautwein, seems like a nice staff. Seems like he's building a better staff than Billy did, which was one of the big knocks on Billy, was just the staff wasn't very good.
Well, and you go back, McElwain's staff wasn't very good. Dan Mullen's staff had been around and knew what they were doing a little bit, but there were some weak spots in Mullen's staff as well, some blind spots on Dan's part. So they really haven't had a great staff here since Urban. So you hope that some of these guys are difference makers. What I would like to see out of this staff, Edgar, is continuity. I don't think Billy had any continuity. I think from year 1 to year 2, he lost key guys. We're having to replace some guys, and the guys he kept were the guys you didn't want him to keep. So I think that's where it starts for me, is have some continuity at the strength department, have some continuity on special teams, have some continuity at your coordinators, and have some continuity on your key recruiting guys, and see what happens in year 3. That's going to be, to me, first and foremost, what I want to see. I don't know any of these guys. I mean, obviously we know Trautwein is a player, but I don't know any of these guys. They all have pretty good resumes. They've all got something they can sell, something they can hang their hat on. But the reality to me is going to be, what kind of relationships can John Sumrall build with these guys so that they're sticking with him over the next 2 or 3 years. And this is really a nice trajectory of a program.
Yeah, speaking of continuity, and great point there, Mark, with Billy's staff turnover, is Buster Faulkner is expected to enlist the help of several Georgia Tech staffers that he worked with, and they'll be in analyst roles. A.J. Erdley, former UAB quarterback, assistant quarterbacks coach. Emil sorry, Emil, don't crush me, please. He was an all-SEC lineman for Alabama, who started 40 games for the Tide back with Nick Saban, up to 2022 all-SEC. Dylan Dockery, assistant tight ends coach. Mike Polly, who's the graybeard of the group, 17 years of coaching experience, assistant O-line coach. I think that'll be as an analyst, and I don't think John Sumrall is going to try to outsmart everyone and have 2 offensive line coaches, which was anything but smart here at Florida under Billy Napier.
Yeah, I think there was a great somebody had sent us this great tweet about somebody saying Sumrall had fired the offensive line coach, and then somebody else responded, well, what about the second one? And he's like, wait, what? There's 2 offensive line coaches? Well, who the hell has 2 offensive line coaches? So good stuff. And again, yeah, you don't need 2 of your 10 to be offensive line related.
You do need,
and if you do, you need better results than what Florida showed for 4 years.
Well, Phill Trautwein seems to be a stud. He's highly coveted, and you do need a special teams coach. Quit this analyst stuff. You need a coach, and I'm sure they have a good one in mind. So yeah, shifting though, Mark, the Heisman. We can reveal our votes first off, because you're not allowed to before the award is given. I was a little surprised it was such a runaway for from Mendoza. I don't want to butcher his first name, but
Fernando.
It's Fernando. I was going to say Francisco almost. Me and the names, man. I would definitely didn't have a future in Sports Center at any point, but those guys are amazing. How the hockey names are the ones that always impress me. They do, the enunciation is flawless. But we can pronounce the other, Diego Pavia, who I voted for first on my ballot. Yourself?
Me too. Yeah, I voted for Pavia 1. I actually had Mendoza 3.
Okay.
I love Jeremiah Love, and so I had showed some love to Love, and had Jeremiah Love, had him as my number 2.
So I had Mendoza 2, and then I had Jacob Rodriguez, who finished 4th. I had him 3rd. I needed to get a defensive guy in there, being me. I mean, this guy forced 7 fumbles, had 4 picks, and like 120 tackles for arguably the best front 7. Them in Oklahoma, the Red Raiders in Oklahoma's front 7s are probably the 2 best. And Miami's is up there too, but elite linebacker, did finish 5th. So Yeah, I was a little shocked, but what did shock me, but I guess in retrospect didn't, is Diego Pavia's response. I mean, he went off, man. He was at a party. He's just like, flipping the middle finger, just crashing the selection, ripping Indiana. It was pretty classless, but that's how we roll in Albuquerque, having lived there for 16 years and the home to both Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. It isn't. We have some edge in Albuquerque, my man. But I mean, he brought it a little too hard and ended up having a real mea culpa the next day when he sobered up.
Yeah, I don't understand. I really don't understand why he didn't get more votes, to be honest. 189 first place votes. I get the love for Fernando Mendoza. I mean, he's been certainly one of the stars of Indiana for 2 years. This year, undefeated. But it looks like to me it's best player on the best team, the number one ranked team. And a lot of people just vote that way. To me, again, Indiana's got a very good team. Pavia is a little bit of a one-man show, and I like that. So that's why I voted for Pavia. But, whatever. It's all good. There's enough votes that 643 first place votes. I think it's one of the highest, right? I think he had one of the highest percentage of first place votes in history. So the guy's very deserving.
He's definitely deserving. And that 32-yarder on third down against Ohio State was the play of that game, probably. Pavia, man, just put on a show. He was amazing for a team that just kind of came out of nowhere right on his shoulders. So I don't know. Look, I lean toward Albuquerque always when I can because it's rare. You get a lean toward Albuquerque on anything. But, yeah, anyway.
Gunnar Stockton finished second, Georgia quarterback. Trinidad Chambliss finished 8th, Ole Miss quarterback. And Haynes King.
Seventh. Gunnar Stockton was 7th.
Gunnar Stockton finished 7th.
Okay.
Trinidad Chambliss finished 8th, Ole Miss quarterback. And Haynes King, the Georgia Tech quarterback with Buster Faulkner, finished 10th.
Okay. It's nice to make that top 10 for anyone. It's an honor just to be on that list, I'm sure. I mean, it's a dream, but I wish Diego would handle it with a little more class because it does undermine what's been a phenomenal season for him, a near playoff team. And definitely when they go to 16 and you go back and look at it, Vanderbilt would have been in the field. Last one real quick, Mark, before we move on to basketball real quick, is Jake Slaughter, man's getting a lot of honors. And look, we love Jake. I'm trying to go alligator hunting with Jake. So, Jake, this isn't trying to, lose my chance to head out into the swamps with you and you protect me, I'm sure, because I'll probably be terrified. But was he a second-team All-American center? I don't even think Jake Slaughter would say he was. He had 2 key penalties in a couple of different games. I'm not saying he got pushed around because I don't think he did, but I don't think they were 4-8. I mean, that's your center. That's your nerve center of your brains of your operation. They just weren't good on offense this year. Lowest scoring offense in the SEC. And you get the second-team All-American at center. It was a little curious. And again, it shows, like I was going to say about the Heisman, I don't want my vote taken away necessarily, but if you did, it wouldn't be a crime because you can't watch all this stuff. So you go and you base it on, what's kind of being said or what you think or, lists that you check. And a lot of groupthink goes into these votes sometimes, I think.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I do think if you're a preseason All-American or you're an All-American the previous year, you have a good chance of at least making the second team or the third team, just because that's the way it is, because most of the voters aren't seeing all the games. So a lot of it is based on name recognition, not notoriety, but just a little bit of a fame standpoint. So, and going back to Florida, yeah, it wasn't good enough. They ran for less than 100 yards in 3 games, at LSU, at Miami, at Texas A&M, barely topped 100 at Kentucky, at Ole Miss. 5 road games, and they probably averaged 85 yards in 5 road games. Not good enough. Not for a team that wants to run the ball. Not for a team whose identity is running the football. Not for a head coach whose identity is running the football. So they did have some good games. Only one game over 3 games over 150 yards. LIU, Texas 159, and then Florida State 272. But not good enough across the board. That offensive line, that running game. So much like, you could make a case for Jaden Baugh, you can't make a case for any of those offensive linemen, in my opinion, to be All-Americans.
We still love you, Jake, and let's get out there in the swamp and rub an alligator belly one day. We are catch and release. Catch and release.
There you go.
I tell you, Mark, you got a tough act to follow here because Wesley somehow pulled together a Mendoza photo and a Trautwein photo on the fly. So we're going to do picks on the fly because if we don't do them, we're not doing them. I got them in front of us, so get ready. You always box me in and
wow.
I don't know where we stand.
How did we do? How did we do last time?
I think I salvaged a pretty good week. I mean, or a decent enough week. But we can add all that up and let the people know the damage, let the listeners know the damage next time. But we got 4 games, playoff games. We're not picking bowls. We're picking playoffs from here on out, and this will decide the free round of golf. I think I have a few lead on you, probably 2, maybe 3. I think it's probably 2. So we got Alabama at Oklahoma, a game I kind of trashed last week and have since gotten really excited about. Typical like me, Driftwood, right? I'm pumped for this game suddenly now. I think
it helps that it's the Friday night game, right?
Yeah, and I just think it's gonna be a good game. Maybe we can hang out and watch it unless you got plans. You can bring Nolan over. But -1 Bama on the road is giving 1. Why don't you go first? I'll go first on the next one.
OU defense is legit, playing at home. They beat Alabama. They've won 2 in a row. Beat Alabama last year in Norman. Beat them this year in Tuscaloosa. Alabama's getting healthy, but I'm taking OU.
I am too, man. I don't think Alabama should be in the playoff, but we're not relitigating that again. Miami at Texas A&M. A&M's giving 3.5. It's an 11 o'clock kickoff at Kyle Field. I mean, you want to talk about a way to kill the home field advantage. I mean, right? I know they'll be pumped and up for it, but, you got to get a little tailgating and stuff in if you're the set 12th man to kind of get the juices flowing. I still think A&M's going to show up in force, obviously, the fan base. I'm taking Miami, though. I think Miami's good, and I think Miami can make a run.
I will take A&M reluctantly. I was going to take Miami. I actually already wrote it down that I thought you were heading toward taking A&M. And I was gladly going to take Miami. I think A&M's a fraud. I say it, and I've said it on here before. Go look at their schedule. They played the worst teams in the SEC to get where they're at. They lost their only game that mattered against Texas late in the season. Their only game against one of the top half of the SEC. I don't think a lot. I don't think a lot of their quarterback. I don't think a lot of their running game. I think their defense is solid. I think Elko's a good coach. But to me, they topped the fraud list in 2025.
So Mark picked them. This is like the guy heading to the ATM after betting double zeros, 500 at the roulette wheel and heading back for another 500. I've seen it, unfortunately. Not for myself. All right, we got John Sumrall's Tulane Green Wave going to the Lane Kiffin-less Ole Miss Rebels in Oxford, where he's going to face a very motivated team with one I don't think that has the talent to match, that lost their 45, I think, to 10 earlier this season. 17.5 Ole Miss gives to Tulane. What do you expect, Mark?
I'm taking Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss has enough pride with who's left behind. And Lane left them enough coaches that they'll be fine.
Yeah, I do too. SEC versus AAC, it's hard to pick. It is John Sumrall, will have a much better roster here by 2027 than he has at Tulane right now, and probably needs to have a better one in 2026. Oregon hosting JMU, Billy Napier's new team. Good thing for the Dukes, he will not be coaching them in this game. Oregon given 21.5. I mean, I think they can name the score. I don't. This game is very unappealing. It's a 7:30 game. I think I'll probably be, watching F1 or whatever if I'm willing to pay $12.99 on Apple TV to watch it.
Yeah, boo on the ACC for not doing its part here and getting the ACC champion in. Instead, we get 2 group of 5 teams, and they're both, 17 or more point underdogs. We own it. Well, honestly, we need one of them to win. Like, we need this. If it's ever going to become the NCAA tournament, basketball tournament, you need one of these complete underdogs to pull the big upset on the road and maybe make a run. But until that happens, and I don't think it's going to happen this year.
I think, you're talking 2 excellent coaches, you think, presumably. We think John Sumrall is a very good football coach. He better be. And Bob Chesney, is heading to UCLA. But they're just going to wear down. I mean, Oregon is physical, man. They don't play like the Chip Kelly teams. This team will just absolutely just steamroll.
They're going to get manhandled on the offensive lines. And the reality is, if you have really good players nowadays with the transfer portal and NIL, they get plucked. So your best players get plucked. It's very rare for JMU and Tulane to have, have
the depth.
Right. Exactly. Or to just have the horses to line up and compete in the trenches.
It's a long game, man, and you wear down against teams at those the quality of Oregon and Ole Miss. Okay, so let's talk a little basketball and Foley's Corner, Mark, and then wrap this baby up. Our weekly nod to the former athletic director is focused on our all-around excellence is still being felt. Todd Golden, the Gators, you brought this up, dropped 5 spots in the AP poll. I mean, that AP poll, I don't know what that organization is about, but 5 spots, losing to UConn by a basket and then beating George Washington soundly with Xavier Lee breaking out of his slump big time, 24 points, followed up a 19-point game against UConn. He's a key piece, if not the key piece, to this SEC season, which begins January 3rd at Missouri. You need guard play. As you said, he is a creative, explosive. He's great in the open floor. If he starts hitting shots, you might start realizing why Todd Golden brought this guy down and let Denzel Aberdeen go to Kentucky. He's starting to look like that guy. He has to keep it up.
No doubt. 4 of 7 from 3-point range against George Washington. I thought, he's now looking like the guy you cannot leave open. So they still got an issue, right? Boogie Fland is still an issue. Those 2 guys look a little like oil and water playing side by side. I wonder, I don't have any insight on this. I wonder if you don't separate them, right? Let Lee start with Klavzar, get Fland off the bench. Maybe you just play those guys a little bit opposite each other instead of together and see what you do. And maybe you start that in practice, and then if it works in practice, you do it in a game. But this is a nice opportunity where Florida's headed here. They have a 3-game stretch against overmatched opponents to experiment, right? Switch things up, try something a little bit different, and just see how it works. This is it. This is your final tune-up before SEC plays. And I will be, we get Todd Golden later today, and I will be one of my top questions to him is, do you experiment with any lineup changes? Do you experiment with anybody off the bench going into this stretch where, it looks like this is the if you're going to do it, this is the opportunity to do it. You didn't have a lot of opportunity with the schedule Florida has faced.
Yeah, so one of our colleagues was wondering if Todd was a one-hit wonder. I mean, they just played like a brutal schedule and acquitted themselves fairly well. I mean, the Arizona game was like, yeah, God, that didn't look good. Arizona stomped Alabama the other night, killed them. And Duke, you got the game right in your hands. Let it slip away, Boogie Flan. And then you got the UConn inbounds play that Mark is like timed like 50 times because Todd Golden, I think, felt it was a quick call. It felt on my end as a quick call, but Mark says put stopwatch to it. It was 5 seconds.
It was close enough. But to Todd's point is he says normally they give you 6 seconds in a case like that. They don't give you 5. They certainly don't give you 4.7, 4.8, 4.9. They err on the side of caution. And he's like, no coach is going to complain if they get 5.5 or 6 seconds to inbound the ball because they all expect the same
treatment.
They all expect the same treatment in a similar situation. You did an unbelievable task of coming back, getting that game to 3 points. You turn the ball over. You deserve that extra half second to get the ball inbounded.
Yeah, I think it's a little early to be wondering about Todd Golden with this team. And one thing we're seeing with this team and this program, development. We didn't see that with Billy Napier. Look at Thomas Houck. I mean, look at this guy. Look at Chinyelu. Chinyelu is a monster rebounder. His offensive game's improving. Alex Condon, he hasn't improved his offensive game, but man, the guy gives you something. By the end of a game, he's puts a lot of numbers in the box score and giving you maximum effort. And the list goes on of guys he's developed. He needs to develop a couple more, though, Mark. I think if this team's going to make any sort of run, it's got to get more bench play. The bench has been a non-factor, right? It's like you got to get some more depth here. I thought this team was going to be like 8, 9 deep. It's not. It's barely 6 deep.
Yeah, I want to see more of
7.
I want to see more of CJ Ingram. I want to see more of Isaiah Brown. Maybe less of Alex Lloyd. Yeah, I think he's the best shooter on the team. I think a lot of people say that's Isaiah Brown's brother. What's his name? AJ Brown is the best shooter. But the practices that I've watched, 2 or 3 practices, and I think Alex Lloyd is a fantastic shooter. But apparently he doesn't play any defense. And, they are a defensive team. Todd understands that. That's kind of who they are. That's going to be their calling card this year is front court and defense. And it's hard to put a guy out there if he's not going to play defense.
Yeah, Alex English didn't play any defense either. Neither did Bernard King. I mean, if you can score it, the game's about putting the ball in the basket, ultimately. You need to make stops. If he's that pure a scorer, they're going to have to figure out a way to get him involved. Long season still to go. As Mark said, St. Francis tomorrow night, followed by Colgate on noon Sunday, and then Dartmouth the following Monday, I believe, the 29th. And this is going to, speaking of which, this is going to be our last podcast until around then, because we're going to let everyone enjoy the holidays, barring any crazy news. We already had the big one with DJ Lagway leaving. And, we wish everyone happy holidays. It's a great time to, spend with family. I'm driving back to Virginia Monday. I'm going to get some time with my folks and sisters and all the family, extended family. And I'm sure Mark's looking forward to time with his family and kids, as is Wesley. So anyway, thanks for a great year. I think we might see you right before the new year, everyone. Be safe and be well. Thanks for the conversation, Mark.
Thanks for having me, as always.
I don't think Wesley hit the transfer portal, so we want to thank our faithful producer for continued efforts. And the three of us appreciate everyone took time from their busy lives to join us. Until next time.
Thank you for listening to Swamp Things, your Florida Gators podcast. For more coverage, visit OrlandoSentinel.com and APnews.com. On Twitter, follow Edgar at OSGators and Mark at APMarkLong. Please subscribe to this podcast, share it on social media, and review it on iTunes. See you next time.